Folks, welcome into That Betting Show for January 16th, 2019. It is a Wednesday. It's Hump Day. He's Teddy Savransky. Give him a follow at Teddy_covers. Give me a follow at RightSideVP. I'm Donnie Seymour. Let's get underway right now. No time to waste on the fastest 20 minutes for your sports betting needs. Your one-stop shop for everything here at SportsbookReview.com for That Betting Show. Hump Day. But yesterday, people putting in work, Teddy, in the association, a 51-point explosion by Golden State on the road yesterday versus Denver. An easy route, 142-111 winner, 2.5-point favorite. Didn't need too much of that money. Also easily hit the over. We'll talk a little bit later on some key important games here, including Golden State on the association hardwood tonight. But Teddy, what an impressive performance yesterday by those Warriors.
That's who they are. Golden State is not just a one-time champ. They're three-time champs. This team's no joke. I had someone literally look me in the eye and say, oh, no, the Nuggets are better than the Warriors this year. I'm like, yeah, you'll see. Golden State. And again, last night was really easy. The 51-point first quarter, when you're raining in 10 threes in a quarter, you're likely to have both point spread and straight-up success. But Warriors now back to their deserved position with the number one seed in the Western Conference. They played like they were on a mission last night. The Nuggets played like they were pretenders, not contenders, which is what they are.
Yeah, it's interesting because when you look at the standings, you say, now, wait a second, Teddy. Last night was a big game. That was for the rights to the Western Conference lead, and Golden State really pushed them around in their own building. And then you realize, yes, we're only in January. You have February, March, and April in the playoffs to get after it. Not really a statement game, Teddy, for a team that's used to winning titles, not regular season games and stamping their flag. But it should be interesting to watch as we've seen down low. What a night for the big three there, combining Thompson, Curry, and Durant, Teddy, for 89 points combined in a laugher. But, Teddy, I've been told it's really hard to play in elevation. Not so much last night, huh?
This whole elevation thing... It's from a betting standpoint, it's one. I remember when I came to Vegas in 1998, people go, oh, be wary about elevation, all of that. I mean, we're talking about very well-conditioned athletes. Sometimes you have issues on the second of back-to-backs off of elevation or the second of back-to-backs in elevation, but a single game, no problem for the Warriors last night. We'll talk about the rematch later not the rematch, the Warriors again against the Pelicans tonight later in the show.
NFL Hot Topics, Teddy, never slows down. We're not even through the playoffs, not even through championship weekend or the Super Bowl. Haven't hit free agency yet, but always some interesting topics crop up. Coaching trees still filing in there. Looks like John DeFilippo, at the time of taping, is going to the Jacksonville Jaguars as the offensive coordinator. Defensive coordinator Greg Williams, fresh from his stint in Cleveland, goes over to the New York Jets with Adam Gase. But some interesting quarterback scenarios here, which I'm in Philadelphia. You see me with the Eagles shirt on, the Eagles paraphernalia in the back. I thought it was a no-brainer here. Move on from Nick Foles. You have Carson Wentz. He's younger, more athletic. That's the guy you're going to build off of. And it had to happen because in the NFL, it's a salary cap sport. You can't afford to have a $20 million quarterback on the bench just in case something goes wrong. Not a way to build a winner. But the one that I do see, Teddy, because this has a betting influence, and certainly a betting influence last year, Cam Newton and his shoulder. It was clear that he couldn't throw the football heading down the stretch. They shut him down for the Carolina Panthers, and you say, all right, it's probably going to go out, get surgery, get it fixed. Now they're contemplating on what to do. It almost looks like his arm, you can't just tell me that was just a tired arm. Something is wrong there. If he doesn't get surgery, Teddy, that's a major red flag for me heading into next year if you're looking at win totals for the Carolina Panthers.
Yeah, I mean, if he's not getting surgery, he's not getting surgery because the doctor said you don't need surgery. So I tend to not worry about that as much as you do. But you're right about Newton not being anywhere close to 100% down the stretch. There were a lot of throws he missed over the back half of the season, throws that probably, and all those close losses for the Panthers, some of those being accurate would have made a big difference at the latter stages of some of those ball games. But the story that keeps on intriguing me is the Raiders, the Oakland Raiders. Well, what are they for 2019? Nobody knows who they are in 2019. Where will they play? Now they're talking about Levi Stadium and AT&T Park. Maybe it's an NFL team with no home, and the season's not that far away. Next season, in the scheme of things, it's a fascinating and funny scenario. Of course, they'll be in Vegas in 2020, but I can tell you from the construction trains, I can see it from my house. That stadium's not ready yet, and it won't be ready this fall.
Teddy, I got a question for you with the Oakland Raiders. Now, to me, it's one of the more prominent fan bases because of the illustrious, getting all the way back to Al Davis, the swashbucklers, the renegades, coming in from the AFL to the NFL. Al Davis, I can't count on my fingers and toes of how many times that Al Davis has sued the league. What makes this really interesting to me is if you stay in Oakland, if you don't stay in Oakland, like you go to San Diego, it's amazing. Is there any shot here? Because I know it's, completely far-fetched. You're going eventually to Las Vegas. No way they can make it happen out at Boyd Stadium and just for 1 year so they can avoid the embarrassment of the NFL. I mean, look, we're talking about maybe an option to play in San Diego. How hilarious would that be for the Raiders to take up at Qualcomm out there? That would be amazing.
Yeah, Sam Boyd Stadium is not an NFL stadium. And they were talking about the renovations needed just to make it fit the NFL specs for things like locker room size would be something in the range of $100 million. And that stadium's going to get torn down immediately after the new Raider Stadium gets finished in 2020. So putting $100 million into Sam Boyd is not going to happen. It's not a realistic option. The Raiders will not be in Las Vegas in 2019.
It'd be interesting. I also saw the pictures coming out, Teddy. World-class facility coming, not only obviously from the stadium aspect, but also from a practice facility aspect. So Raiders looking to ramp up, and they better get some of that return on your investment for your $10 million a year head football coach in John Gruden. But hey, the draft picks are on its way. They're on their way to Las Vegas, so maybe looking up there for the Raiders. Back to the ACC last night. A couple of the front runners took the court, but didn't pan out that way, Teddy. Virginia making its mark early in the season, clamping down, playing great offense, rolls over ACC rival Virginia Tech. A 22-point lead at the half. It was a wrap. Boy, I'll tell you, Teddy, looking at every single team right now in college basketball, can't be any more impressed than what Virginia's doing at this time.
Yeah, in the regular season, of course, they became the first number 1 seed to ever lose to a 16 seed last year.
UMBC,
and they
baby.
got blown out in that game.
Yes,
but what that's done, as we talked about on yesterday's show, we brought up this game. What that loss to Maryland, Baltimore County has done for Virginia is make them a value-laden team again. They were point spread juggernauts last year. They've been point spread juggernauts this season. And I mean juggernauts to the tune of 31-11 against the spread, their last 42? Maybe a couple of pushes in there, but the Cavs, the gift that keeps on giving for those who have backed them, their slow pace style does not attract public bettors, and therefore they've held their value for a very, very long time and continue to hold value even at this late stage after another huge point spread run and another big blowout victory over Virginia Tech.
Yeah, coming up this Saturday, big game in the ACC with Duke, maybe even catching a little bit of a break if you're Virginia. Coming off a tough game, you go in the head into Duke. You're probably looking forward to that one, circling on the calendar. Point guard looks like he's going to miss the game for the Duke Blue Devils, and that one, so might be catching them at the right time, because if you don't have an outstanding point guard to hammer down that Virginia pack line defense, you might be in for a long day. We'll keep that one on the horizon. I'm pretty sure we'll take a look at that on Friday. Segment number 2, Teddy, one of our favorite things to do here at sportsbookreview.com is review line movements and what's going on in games, weather conditions changing all the time. We don't have the advantage of looking at any weather changes being down at the Dome, but Kansas City seems to be the focal point here. But let's first take a look here, Teddy. The Rams and Saints total shifting a little bit on us, opening up around that 56 and a half range. I saw a peak at 57 yesterday, now pulling back to 56 and a half. I do see the numbers out there. Look, games in the Dome, I think they said, last 5 games that were played in a Dome in the NFC Championship game have gone over the total. But we're seeing historic numbers here in conference games, 57 and a half, as opposed to your mid-40s. Are we looking too much into this, Ted, or is this just the numbers bouncing around at this point for no good reason other than money coming in on each side here?
Well, that's why numbers bounce around. They bounce around because money comes in on one side or the other. Sometimes you see when there's a major move, you'll see some books, they call them moving on steam or moving on air, where they see the market moving even though they haven't been hit. They're going to move their number because they see the screen. We call it the screen going black when there's a wise guy move, which, as I'm looking, there's a bunch of money coming in on the other game. We'll talk about in just a minute. The screen literally just went black as we were talking. For Rams and Saints, we've seen a little bit of under money, not a lot. And I think it has everything to do with, we're not used to seeing totals of 57 in NFL championship games. Yeah, sure. We've seen that in the regular season now. We've gone over many of these barriers even in the postseason. But, I believe this is the highest total in NFL championship game history. And the markets are saying, they scored 80 points in the first meeting. That was then. This is now. The pressure's tougher. The red zone defenses are better because anytime you're talking about totals 56.5, 57, whatever it is, you need touchdowns, not field goals. Red zone execution, enormous in these type of ball games when it comes to betting on the totals.
Yeah, it looks like Rams in New Orleans, Teddy, right now, just taking a quick look. You know, we had the 3.5s popping up yesterday. It looks like, I don't want to say they're disappearing, but the juice is lightening on there. You know, some offshore books showing -3, -120. So we do have a little bit of movement there. Second one, Teddy, Kansas City. You know, we've seen, what is that temperature going to be? I saw a high of 5 degrees, a high of 3 degrees, 0 degrees. Now we're showing some 15s and 17s. Point is, it's still going to be cold. Will it be historically cold in this ball game? We'll see. But you are starting to see a little bit of an impact, Teddy. If we saw last week in the New England game early in the week, maybe possible chance of snow up in Foxborough, that dissipated, and the over returned from about a 44.5 to 45 back up to 47 to 47.5. Same thing in this game, opened at an extremely high number. We even saw it get as low as 44, but now seeing 55s come back. Is this just a direct mark movement here? Because what I'm looking at is saying, well, maybe it's not going to be so cold that they can't move the football. That's still a high number in a championship game, especially when you do have some weather involvement. But weather doesn't look as bad yesterday if you figure 5 to 15 degrees isn't bad. Still cold to me, Teddy.
Yeah, and this is why the SBR odds product is such a great product and why you should be using it on a daily basis. You can see the lines move. That matter. Hey, do I get my bet down now? Do I wait? And right now, as we speak, we've just seen a significant, I'm not crazy, but the screen went black, and there was a bunch of money on the over in this ballgame. The 54.5s wiped out. 55s, there's still 55s out there, but I'm seeing books moving to 56 as we speak. There's still a 54.5 with over -125 out there. The money's coming on the over right now with the weather forecast, and of course, let's not forget where the public's going to be on in this game. They saw Brady light everyone up last week. They saw Mahomes light everyone up all year. You can count on public money coming the over here. And the market's getting in front of that a little bit with the over money coming in today on Wednesday.
And we talk about correlated parlays, Teddy. No surprise here. Ticket price is 28% higher for the Dome in New Orleans, and rightfully so. You get to sit in a nice, 70-degree temperature in New Orleans to party, or would you like to spend your money and go out and sit in 5-degree weather in Kansas City? No surprise with that one, but always information that we do think is interesting. Watch what you bet, Teddy. Trifecta tonight. One in the association, one in NCAA basketball, and one in the NFL. Let's get right to it here. Golden State returns home, Teddy. Are they getting a victory parade today for beating those Denver Nuggets on the road to claim first place? Nope, but they're going to take to the court and play the Pelicans. One interesting thing here, Teddy, is that from previously, DeMarcus Cousins had hoped to probably get back and get ready for this game, maybe for a little revenge factor with his old friends. Doesn't look like that's going to be the case. Warriors open up -7, total of 240.5. Money line +250, -300. 10:30 p.m. Eastern time. Tip off here on ESPN. Pelicans 6-17 straight up on the road, 9-14 against the spread. Warriors quick turnaround in elevation, Teddy. They're going to be up to the challenge tonight versus those Pelicans.
Well, they weren't tested last night in Denver. Nobody played. I mean, Draymond Green was the only guy to play 30 minutes. I think he played 30 minutes and some, 20 seconds or something. So Golden State, for the second night of back-to-backs, should be relatively fresh in this ballgame. And they're going against a team that's not playing elite-level defense, to put it mildly. In New Orleans, a squad that has struggled all year long to notch wins on the highway. All that being said, let's not forget, New Orleans, terrible road record. You look at the season. They only won 6 road games all year. And you look at their point spread mark. 9's covered, 9-14 against spread. They're lousy. Yeah, but what have they done lately? Their last, I think, 8 on the road have all been decided by single digits. They've been in every game. They've been very competitive on this road trip, a 4-point loss and a straight-up win against the Clippers. And you talked about Mirotic back in the lineup. Mirotic. I remember last year when the Bulls were just god-awful, the worst team in the NBA by far. Mirotic came back. They made me a ton of money, and they traded him. And they were awful again. And then all of a sudden, New Orleans goes on a run with Mirotic. I don't know what this stretch for. He's a good stretch for, yes. I don't think he's that big of an impact, but so help me God, the last 2 years, whenever he's been healthy, his team's been a point spread juggernaut. Whenever he's been hurt, his team has been an ATS money loser. That's certainly been the case for the Pelicans so far this year. Merritt is back in the lineup for New Orleans. Good game. I don't see a blowout in this one necessarily, but I'm not standing in front of the Warriors right now, especially after they weren't tested last night in Denver.
Big 12 battle, Teddy. Kansas State's going to head on the road to play those Oklahoma Sooners. That's going to take place 7 p.m. tonight. ESPN, too, if you want to catch it here. Early lines, Teddy. Oklahoma favored by minus 4.5, total of 129. We did see some movement overnight there because some of these outlets had it at 6, 6.5. So you do have a 2-point movement towards the Oklahoma Sooners. Over-unders, we said 129. Money line going to get about a plus 170, minus 195 split. Dean Wade comes back for Kansas. The big man, 6'10 forward. That should play an impact. Fresh off a nice win for Kansas State. Maybe getting healthy at the right time as they enter into Big 12 play. Ken Pom, style of pace here. We always like to talk about that. Kansas State 313th in pace. Oklahoma at 54th in the country. Something's going to give in this one. Good game, though, Teddy, in the Big 12. Seems like every game in the Big 12 is going to be highly competitive this year.
Yeah, really. Where'd you see that 4.5? I would have loved to have Oklahoma minus 4.5 in my pocket. The first number I saw.
That's what. Yeah, that when I was punching it
5.5
up this morning. What do we got now? Give me the updates of what we got now.
5.5, 6. More sixes than 5.5s. Last night when I did my work, it was sitting at 5.5. So 4.5, good number. If you're able to get down on the Sooners, that number unfortunately no longer available. That being said, okay, we talk about K-State and they're only have one road win on the season. Yeah, they have Wade back. Yeah, they've given Oklahoma a lot of trouble in recent seasons. And when you look at what they've done in their last couple of ball games, very different K-State team with Wade on the court. They're sticky on the defensive end of the floor. No question. Hard to win by margin right now against Kansas State. When it comes to the Oklahoma side, look, this is the squad last year that was not just a bad point spread team, an absolute money burner. Trae Young got a big spotlight on him early in the season. The betting markets loved Oklahoma, and they went through the Big 12 campaign and in the postseason and got annihilated ATS. One of the, if not the worst point spread team in basketball over the last 3 months of the season last year. Well, the residual value on Oklahoma has been flipped the other way this season. They've been point spread juggernauts from day one this season. That's why I said 4.5. Yeah, I'm interested in the Okies, the Oklahoma side. At 6, lean that way. But this number is not a number for me to pull the trigger on.
Yeah, it was interesting because when I was doing it up there, it looks like Bet Online offshore opened up at 6.5 last night, went to 4.5 for about an hour this morning, but quickly moving back in that direction for the Oklahoma Sooners. Teddy, it's not Friday yet. It's not Sunday yet where they're going to play this game, but we always have time to talk about here at sportsbookreview.com. Folks, if you haven't done so yet, subscribe to us on YouTube. Every time Teddy and I go live on that betting show, you'll get the notification to pop in and check it out. Rams Saints minus 3.5 plus 100s now. So a little bit of a line shift from yesterday when that 3.5 was a little bit more steady, maybe trending right now towards 3s. We'll see where it ends up, 56.5. Money line of plus 155, minus 180. 305 on Sunday, the early game. Just an interesting game because if we take a look at the Los Angeles Rams over the last 3 games, the C.J. Anderson effect ran for 269 yards, 155 yards, and 273 over the past 3 games. Seemingly being able to play with the lead and lean on that running game is a big deal, Teddy. But can that hold up in the Dome if the Saints jump out to a 7-0, a 10-point lead in this one? Can they continue to run the football, or will they be forced to use Jared Goff? That whole roaring stadium comes into play down there in the Superdome and maybe too much to overcome. Looking forward to a good one. Early in the week, Teddy, I'm leaning towards the Rams in this one.
Yeah, earlier, was it yesterday? I think it was yesterday. I had an argument with a wise guy friend of mine talking about where this line's going to move. He's like, it's going to 4. It's going to 4. Everyone knows the Saints are better. And yet last night, what happens? Money comes in on L.A.
Rams
and drive some of them back down to 3 and 3.5 even money, 3s with juice available right now. We may see some Saints money between now and kickoff, but we haven't seen that big move. He's like, that line's going to close 4. I haven't seen any indication that it's going to close 4, but for what it's worth, a pretty sharp bettor that I know pretty well thinks it's going in that direction. All that being said, I haven't seen signs of it. I do think New Orleans is the better of these two teams, and that certainly was apparent in the first meeting. The Rams' defense didn't get the job done. We know what Peyton's done at home, Peyton and Breeze, as when they're playing in the Superdome, and I don't know that Jared Goff is ready. It's been a Rams team that's had to run the football very effectively down the stretch because Goff, the downfield passing game isn't what it was a month or two ago. Now, I worry about the Saints' weapons in this ball game. Kamara and Thomas, obviously 2 very dangerous pass catchers, but this isn't one of these teams for New Orleans where they got 6 different guys that are capable of making big plays down the field. There's more dink and dunk in both of these offenses than I think a lot of people recognize. I wouldn't be surprised this ends up being a lower scoring game despite the 45-35 shootout in the first meeting between these two squads.
Teddy, quick question on this one, because I know when they played earlier, obviously it was a 10-point win and cover for the New Orleans Saints down in the Dome. Some key ingredients in that game. Cooper Kupp no longer on the field for the Rams, but defensively, you get back Aqib Talib when, if you remember, Marcus Peters got assassinated out there on the field when he was matching up with Michael Thomas. You saw last week with the Eagles, and you bring up a good point, is there's not a ton of overall playmakers on that offense, especially outside at the wide receiver position. Michael Thomas going against no names. At least Aqib Talib is going to be back in this game. If you watch the Dallas Cowboys game, when Aqib Talib went down and had to get touched for concussion protocol, real soft defenses playing 10 yards off the line of scrimmage, and Dak was able to dink and dunk his way down the field. Talk about maybe some of the injuries. Because look, C.J. Anderson didn't play in this last game. Now you have both C.J. Anderson and Gurley healthy in this one. Aqib Talib back in the fold, Cooper Kupp out. Makes for an interesting, way to cap it, but I would have to say the most important ingredient there is getting Talib back and healthy to try to slow down Michael Thomas in this game.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know that Michael Thomas is going to be stopped, but containing him would certainly be a good idea if the Rams want to go on to the Super Bowl 3 weeks or 2.5 weeks from now. But a lot of times people are going to look at that regular season meeting and say, oh, this is what happened. This is what the two teams are, No, there's spots involved. There's situations involved. There are injuries that have occurred since then or were occurred in that ballgame. When I'm looking back at a regular season meeting between two teams, I'll put a little emphasis on it. I want to know what happened, but I will absolutely not be making a bet on the rematch based on what happened, solely based on what happened in the first meeting, saying, oh, that happened once, it's clearly going to happen again. We saw a shootout in the first meeting. Neither defense had a chance in that contest. The Saints got off to a big lead. The Rams turned it over a couple times. L.A. rallied back, and then New Orleans scored the last two scores of the ballgame to end up winning by margin. That was then. This is now. In the postseason, the pressure ratchets up just a little bit more. And, of course, when it comes to seeing these offenses, well, both defenses have seen them once already this season.
Off the mic, Teddy time. And look, Michigan up to their old ways here, Teddy. Your Michigan boys up and at 'em again. Jim Harbaugh offering kids that aren't even in 8th grade yet, trying to get a jump on the competition. Hey, look, all bets are off when you're trying to beat Ohio State. You got to beat them to the competition. Teddy, talk about Jim Harbaugh and what he's doing out here.
Okay, number one, I like the fact that Harbaugh is trying to get guys for the class of 2024. Shows he's sticking around in Ann Arbor. Number two, this kid who Isaiah Marshall, the kid who he signed, he's got a cousin that played for the Cowboys. His mom was a basketball player. His dad played for Illinois. The whole family's athletes. The kid clearly has some A game, and he's playing at one of the there's a handful of academies outside of Detroit that are juggernauts. I think he's at Southfield. Brother Rice, another one that where the football and basketball powerhouses in Michigan. As to the concept of offering a 6th grader a college scholarship, it's obviously very, very, or a 7th grader, a college scholarship. It's a silly concept. That being said, Wolverines need a quarterback. Maybe they found one.
Yep, making the news is always good. Also, some good things come about some big upset wins. You see somebody post something, I'll donate, $10,000, $15,000, $20,000 if my team wins or a certain bet goes through. Well, how about if we take a look at Adam Weitzman donating $150,000 to the Owego, Binghamton, and Syracuse Boys Club. And then, Teddy, somebody reminded him that there's another boys club in Endicott. So he offers up another $25,000. You say, man, what a good guy. He's probably using his life savings to donate over on a whim because his Syracuse Orange ended up beating the Duke Blue Devils outright as a massive underdog down at Cameron Indoor Stadium. Then you read the fine print. He is a billionaire with a $30 million upstate New York mansion. Also, Teddy, in 2004, doing 1 year in jail for bank fraud. Hey, he's able to get back to the scrap business, Teddy, build it back up to $1 billion. Everybody wins in this situation. His Orange won, the Boys and Girls Club won. Everybody gets on that smiley face. They're always an interesting picture. Good for you donating that money and following through. Man, over 20 minutes already in the show on That Betting Show for January 16th, 2019. Tomorrow we'll hit the hardwood again. Friday, we'll sharpen our knives here on the show and get after those conference championship games. He's Teddy Savransky. I'm Donnie Seymour. That was This Betting Show for January 16th, 2019.